Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be in Deuteronomy, chapter 32, verses 28 through 52. They are a nation devoid of wisdom, and there is no understanding among them. I wish that they were wise and could understand this, and that they could comprehend what will happen to them. How can one man chase 1,000 of them, and two pursue 10,000, unless their rock had delivered them up, and the Lord had handed them over? For our enemy's rock is not like our rock, as even our enemies concede. For their vine is from the stock of Sodom, and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes contain venom. Their clusters of grapes are bitter. Their wine is snake's poison, the deadly venom of cobras. Is this not stored up with me, says the Lord? Is it not sealed up in my storehouses? I will get revenge and pay them back at the time their foot slips, for the day of their disaster is near, and the impending judgment is rushing upon them. The Lord will judge his people, and will change his plans concerning his servants, when he sees that their power has disappeared, and that no one is left, whether confined or set free. He will say, "Where are their gods, the rock in whom they sought security, who ate the best of their sacrifices, and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise and help you, let them be your refuge. See now that I, indeed I, am he, says the Lord, and there is no other God beside me. I kill and give life, I smash and I heal, and none can resist my power. For I raise up my hand to heaven, and say, as surely as I live forever, I will sharpen my lightning-like sword, and my hand will grasp hold of the weapon of judgment. I will execute vengeance on my foes, and repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword will devour flesh, the blood of the slaughtered and captured, the chief of the enemy's leaders. Cry out, O nations, with his people, for he will avenge his servants' blood. He will take vengeance against his enemies, and make atonement for his land and people. Then Moses went with Joshua son of Nun and recited all the words of this song to the people. When Moses finished reciting all these words to all Israel, he said to them, keep in mind all the words I am solemnly proclaiming to you today. You must command your children to observe carefully all the words of this law, for this is no idle word for you. It is your life. By this word you will live a long time in the land you are about to cross the Jordan to possess. Then the Lord said to Moses that same day, go up to this Abiram hill country, to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab opposite Jericho, and look at the land of Canaan that I am giving to the Israelites as a possession. You will die on the mountain that you ascend, and join your deceased ancestors, just as Aaron your brother died on Mount Hor, and joined his deceased ancestors. For both of you rebelled against me among the Israelites at the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the desert of Zin, when you did not show me proper respect among the Israelites. You will see the land before you, but you will not enter the land that I am giving to the Israelites. So, it seems as though God's saying, wish you guys would think once in a while, because like in chapter 32, verse 30, how can one man chase 1,000 of them, and two pursue 10,000, unless their rock had delivered them up, and the Lord had handed them over? One person just doesn't chase down 1,000 people, nor 10,000. And by that very fact alone, they should realize that they did something wrong. And that's one of the curses that will be placed upon them if they fail to observe the law, is that they'll be ineffective in battle. In direct contrast to one of the blessings of obedience is that they will be successful in battle. Pretty strong imagery of God as a warrior in this passage. Well, carrying on, Luke chapter 12, verses 35 through 59. Get dressed for service and keep your lamps burning. Be like people waiting for their master to come back from the wedding celebration, so that when he comes and knocks, they can immediately open the door for him. Blessed are those slaves whom their master finds alert when he returns. I tell you the truth, he will dress himself to serve, have them take their place at the table, and will come and wait on them. Even if he comes in the second or third watch of the night and finds them alert, blessed are those slaves. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Then Peter said, Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for everyone? The Lord replied, Who then is the faithful and wise manager, whom the master puts in charge of his household servants, to give them their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master finds at work when he returns. I tell you the truth, the master will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that slave should say to himself, My master is delayed in returning, and he begins to beat the other slaves, both men and women, and to eat, drink, and get drunk, then the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not foresee, and will cut him in two, and assign him a place with the unfaithful. That servant who knew his master's will, but did not get ready, or do what his master asked, will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know his master's will, and did things worthy of punishment, will receive a light beating. From everyone who has been given much, much will be required. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, even more will be asked. I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it is finished. Do you think I have come to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. For from now on there will be 5 in one household divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Jesus also said to the crowds, When you see a cloud rising in the west, you say at once, A rainstorm is coming, and it does. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say, There will be scorching heat, and there is. You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky, but how can you not know how to interpret the present time? And why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? As you are going with your accuser before the magistrate, make an effort to settle with him on the way, so that he will not drag you before the judge, and the judge hand you over to the officer, and the officer throw you into prison. I tell you, you will never get out of there until you have paid the very last cent. The overarching point being that we should be faithful with the things that God has given us, whatever those blessings may be, and in accordance with how much God has given us, we will be responsible for that. In Luke 12:48, from everyone who has been given much, much will be required, and from the one who has been entrusted with much, even more will be asked. So, oh Lord, give us faithfulness and help inspire us to work for you, Lord. Yeah, and in Luke 12:48, 45 and 46, you have this slave who says to himself, my master is delayed in returning, and he acts unfaithfully and starts abusing his power. The master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, at an hour he does not foresee. That's because he's constantly unfaithful, and every hour that the Lord should choose is one that the slave doesn't foresee. One of the things Mike Winger brings up is the emotional anguish that the cross brought Jesus, not just as he was going through it, but in the days and months leading up to it. In Luke 12:50, I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it is finished. And I just think that's one of the things that's often overlooked, is the shame of the cross, and the overwhelming opinions of men that are turned against Jesus. And I guess if you've ever felt an urge of people pleasing, it would probably just rip you apart inside to have that many people screaming for your death, and what over, simply because they don't like what you're saying. Well, continuing on here, Psalm 78, verses 56 through 64. Yet they challenged and defied the sovereign God, and did not obey his commands. They were unfaithful, and acted as treacherously as their ancestors. They were as unreliable as a malfunctioning bow. They made him angry with their pagan shrines, and made him jealous with their idols. God heard and was angry. He completely rejected Israel. He abandoned the sanctuary at Shiloh, the tent where he lived among men. He allowed the symbol of his strong presence to be captured. He gave the symbol of his splendor into the hand of the enemy. He delivered his people over to the sword, and was angry with his chosen nation. Fire consumed their young men, and their virgins remained unmarried. Their priests fell by the sword, but their widows did not weep. This sounds like it's detailing the events in 1 Samuel, when I think it's prior to the appointment of Saul as king, where the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, is in Shiloh with the Ark of the Covenant, and the Philistines come in and capture it. So, yeah. Finally, Proverbs chapter 12, verse 24. The diligent person will rule, but the slothful will become a slave. More admonition to be faithful in our work. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day. Bye.